January 1st, 2020. A highly pathogenic strain of H5N1 bird flu has been reported in China's Hunan province. Okay, so basically the chickens are starting to die now too. They just culled 18,000 chickens. If you don't know what culled means, that means killed as a result of the outbreak of this bird flu. So not only have they lost all their hogs, now they're losing all their chickens. Remember when I told you, when we talked about this, China's food shortage crisis will lead the war? That was back in March 16, 2019 that I put out this video. And of course the deep fake state report of how we're only going to be having 100 million people left in the United States after 2025. And China and India is all going to be peachy and rosy and all that stuff. Don't believe it. Nope. But I'm going to tell you a few things here. You know, this is the 8th U.S. case of coronavirus confirmed in Massachusetts. This is today. So it's spreading like wildfire. It won't be long. Now CNN says there's 12,000 cases worldwide, and that's really not really true. Because if we really look at this progression chart here, by the 21st we expect 183 million to be infected. Now this is the 1st of February, and they say 37,000. So why is it only 12 drop? 12,000. Well, come here. Let me show you something. See that number right there? That's from the 27th of January. 44,000 and change. Okay. And this is the actual infected number, 4,500 approximately and change. You see the difference? It says quarantine up here versus reported. You know why these quarantines aren't reported? Because first of all, the numbers will look bad from the Chinese government, the CCP, Chinese Communist government, putting out numbers like this. But what's really going to happen here is the fact is they ran out of kits for testing of the infected. So they're not even really testing them that much anymore. They don't have enough kits to test them with. They're just quarantining them. So that number of 37,000 that we talked about up here for today's date, I think it's probably pretty close. It's probably higher in my opinion. So we got about, 2 or 3 weeks before it's a full-blown epidemic all across the world, 183 million infected or more, maybe 200 million, maybe a quarter of a billion. And that gives you about 6 to 8 weeks before it hits our shores. Hard. Because I don't see it slowing down. I see coronavirus showing up all over the place in the U.S., rest of the world. How about you? So let's talk about making your own McCaskey mask. Well, it's pretty simple here. There's some tools there and activated charcoal. This guy in his suit, I'll give him credit for this stuff. He deserves it. But he made his own homemade mask. So what he did, took a 2-liter bottle, cut the bottom off. He cut a face mask portion out. You're going to use this part where the cap's screwed on, so keep it, because that's where you're going to make a filter and attach it. Then he took some duct tape and went around this, and then took some electrical tape and whatever he could find, make a tight fit, and so it wouldn't tear up his face. Then he punched some holes in it so he could put these big rubber bands on to attach it to his face. Okay. Now he's going to make the filter. See, basically what you want to do is you want to save that little cap that came off 2-liter bottle and cut a hole right in there. Okay. And you're going to ask why? Because you're going to attach this to your filter. So what you're going to do is you're going to punch a hole in there to hold that in there, that cap in there that you just cut, and you're going to punch a bunch of holes in the bottom of the tin can. Now he used a coconut spray can, but basically what you want to do, okay, is you want to make one a little bit bigger, a little bit longer than the other. He shows you that right here, okay? Because what you're going to do, the bottom piece, you're going to cut that can in half, okay? And the bottom piece is where you draw the air in with all the holes, and this right here is going to slide over the top of this on the outside, and this is where you're going to attach your little cap. Okay, so he's showing you right there that the part that screws in with the threads on it, you want to make sure that that's up towards the bottom of your mask that you created over here. So it's good. So this is the bottom of your mask, and that's where you're going to screw on the filter that you make. You're not going to screw it on top. You're going to screw it up on the bottom of the mask. Okay, so once he's glued that in there, or used whatever he could to secure it and make it airtight, you could actually probably use silicone. but you might have to wait for it to dry up. Make sure it's safe for you. Now he used Aquatech activated carbon. Okay, this is for fish in aquariums. That's not really safe. So let's talk about that real quick before we do anything else. What I would use is I would use a coconut based activated charcoal. Okay, and one you can actually use. It's a food grade where you could swallow it. You can give it to your pets. You can swallow it for your health reasons. You can brush your teeth with it. You can use it for a face mask and everything else. That's what I would get. So this right here, it's pretty big, but this right here is something like I would get. Okay, do not get wood-based ones. Let's go back to the thing. So don't use fish stuff. I've seen too many people use that. Now what he used is a pad, like a cotton pad, like you can buy in the store at Walmart. They're pretty cheap. Women use them for their face, for makeup and all kinds of stuff. You know, the clean their faces off with. So what you do is you take in the bottom piece, you throw the pad in there, and I would tape it up so it's airtight around the pad. Okay, just around the edges. Throw your charcoal in there, put another pad on top, and he just got two things holding tape in there. I would tape around the whole thing too, just like I did the bottom one. Okay, then you just slide that top on there, and once you get that there, you just go taper up real good so it doesn't come apart and it's airtight, so you can use a lot of tape around your homemade filter. And then you just screw it to the bottom of your screws right into the bottom of that bottle, and you have your full gas mask. Pretty neat, huh? This guy did a similar thing. I'm not going to go through it, but he's using the same crappy aquarium fish tank stuff. And the reason why you want food grade is because you can also use it to filter your drinking water. So even if you don't use it to make a homemade filter in the case of emergency, you can use it to brush your teeth with. You can give it to your pets to knock toxins out of their body and your body. As I say, always consult with the doctor before doing anything the drop says, because, guess what? I'm not a doctor, so I can't give you medical advice. But you can brush your teeth with it too. So even if you never use it, you'll use it for some other purpose. And it, works pretty good for whitening your teeth. Here's another one. It's pretty crappy, but it kind of goes into a few things about this. I just don't want to go into this one. But I'll leave the link anyway in case you need to make a really cheap one. It's a little more elaborate. I think it's too much. I don't think it's easy to build. And here's another guy. He made just one without the filter. But you notice he left the cap on the bottom, so if he needed to make those tin can filter out of a pop can or beer can if you drink beer, he'd be able to go ahead and do that. And plus he has something to cover his eyes. He basically used the same method, but he kept the mask instead of using rubber bands. And you know what? That might be a good idea. Double protection, right? Now, if you don't know how to make your own charcoal, you don't have any damn charcoal, this is how you make it. How to make activated charcoal, okay? Okay, so hopefully you have a bunch of coconuts, right? No, I'm just kidding. But you can wood or fibrous plants. So what you do is you build a little fire pit. You fill their kettle full of wood, okay? And you run it for 3 to 5 hours over a hot thing. What happens is all that wood gas escapes, which if you had a gas fire, you could actually also save the gas to burn as like propane. And I've seen places where I've seen videos where people have used something as simple as some copper tubing coming out of this to the top to a mason jar, immerse it into a mason jar with water, and then they have the lid. They run another tube at the top and run it into another mason jar as another filter and run it into the water, and then the other tube comes out of the mason jar, and the exiting tube is above the water, and the entrance tube, with the part that runs into the mason jar, is under the water. So you run it to the mason jar underwater, run it out above the water, into the water, out the water, and you have some type of collection for your tank for your wood gas, and so this shows you how to wash it out, because you want to make sure that you wash it out real good first, because if you don't, then you're going to get impurities in there. Then you can grind it up for a powder, and you let it sit for about 24 hours, and you got use of activated charcoal. So you can make your own. So I'm going to leave all these links in here for you. Some people said, I can't find anything how to do this, but I want to make one more mention here. Okay? If you don't have any booties for your feet, you can take 2 or 3 or 4, you can take garbage bags like the little kitchen liners, or you can take 2 or 3 of those Walmart plastic bags or wherever you shop at, and put them around your feet, pull them up to your ankles, and tape your ankles. If you got rubber gloves, any type of rubber gloves, put them on. They're better than nothing, and tape around your ankles. I mean, around your, no, around your ankles, I'm sorry, around your wrists. Okay? And the same thing if you have any type of suit, anything that you can keep as a secondary layer that cut exposure. I don't care if it's an auto mechanics, it could be something just for painting like this guy, you know, like in a paint booth. You got some type of coveralls, it's better than nothing, people. Any way you can cover up and something you're going to be able to throw away. So this guy has a good idea for the mask. I think it's probably the easiest to build. And if you don't have any activated charcoal, when stuff hits the fan, here you go. Here's how you make it. Here's how you clean it. I'm going to leave all these links in the Show More Me box. And like my China's food shortage crisis will lead to war, I think you should all review that, because if you don't, guess what? I'm telling you what's happening. I'm telling you what's happening now. China's food shortage will lead to war. Massive African swine fever flu is wiping out 700 million pigs. Massive crop failures of wheat and rice due to drought. China is now moving to chickens to feed their population. And what just happened? They're losing their chickens. So what does that mean? I mean, all I can do is tell you to click the Show More box right there. You'll see that there's a bunch of links here on the bottom where you can get all this information that I showed you in the video, because I don't just show you a video and say, oh, and you know, then tell you to go find the page, because you know what? That's not what you came here for. You came here for the information. It's certainly not my personality. It's certainly not my speaking ability. It's certainly maybe some of my knowledge, because you realize that I do know a few things about life, and I can do a lot of things. And so not everybody's that gifted. And I want each and every person to learn as much as possible to be prepared, because be prepared, not scared. And if the more prepared you are, the more valuable you are to the community. If stuff does hit the fan and society totally breaks down, people are going to form groups, small communities. And if you have no useful value, you're not going to be welcomed, because it's going to be a hard life, because people will be struggling, especially if all the grid goes down, all the power goes down, and they're going to need, people need food, clothing, shelter, and safety and security. Okay? And if you can't help provide that with the community, why should they feed you? I mean, they feel sorry for you, but if you're going to sit there and eat all my food and not contribute to anything, and we don't got enough food to feed my kid, or somebody else's kid, or somebody else that needs the food, that's working, that can provide a valuable skill. You know, don't put down valuable skills. One of the most valuable skills is cooking. Okay? Do you want to have somebody cooking for the entire camp that's working hard out in the fields to grow the food, to chop down the wood, you know, to try to filter water, and they're working hard all day? So they're not obviously going to be able to just stop and cook themselves a meal like we normally do. No. There's going to have to be a cook or two that will be preparing the food all day for lunch, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Think about the military. How do they work it? Do every one of them troops stop and sit there and cook their own homemade meal? No. They get in line at a cafeteria because they're too busy doing other stuff like drilling or training and stuff like that for defense. And the same thing's going to be happening with you in your small communities if stuff does hit the fan. You're going to have a couple of people, and if you've got some really great cooks, man, you're going to keep them around. But if they suck at cooking, you're gone. Somebody else is going to be cooking. You're going to be out there breaking your back in the fields. So something as simple as cooking or doing water filtering or making alcohol. People like to drink. If you know how to make alcohol, beer, wine is probably the most simplest to make. You should learn how to do something like that from scratch. Learn how to make yeast out of the air. You know, that's very valuable. People like to drink. Not everybody, but a lot of people like to drink. If you got skills in weaving, making ropes, metalworks, like and you can weld or you can actually blacksmith. Man, you're going to be valuable. People that can keep stuff running, mechanics, and I'm talking not just engines. I'm talking like water pumps and generators and people that can wire and harness and string electrical lines the proper amount of gauge per the kind of whether you're running an AC or DC line, and you know the safety of it. You have the codes for being safe working around electricity, or plumbing, stuff like that. Plumbing goes into irrigation. You know how to build an irrigation system that can water the crops more easily, so they don't have to carry buckets of water or divert a trench and dig a big trench for it. So you can just pump it out of a river or a pond and water your crops. You're going to be a valuable person to that community. But if you don't know anything, you don't know how to do anything, you've never done anything for yourself in your life, you can't even cook a meal and boil water, you might be shit out of luck. Skills, no matter which ones they are valuable in a community like that. So, one thing I'm going to say though, I do not expect good things to happen this year or next. So keep your head on a swivel, learn some skills. Even if you already got a mask and everything, might behold you to go ahead and just start making one right now. Try this. Go make yourself some charcoal. Go make yourself this simple mask. See if you can really do it. If you can't, I know I could do it. I've done stuff like this before. And I've definitely done stuff like this before. But if you've never done it, this is just as important as learning how to buying, 4 weeks worth of restaurant style food. Yuck. I don't know about you, but I don't eat at restaurants most of the time. Maybe once every month I'll stop and get myself some, Hardee's. They call it something else out here. I forget what they call it on the West Coast, but I'll stop at Hardee's and I'll get, some poison food. Get your act together. You ain't got much time left. I'm thinking maybe 6 to 8 weeks. We're on a real hurt pattern in this country. And you might, if you don't have a filter and you can't get a hold of one, you might want to build one of these right now. And you might want to get yourself some food grade charcoal. And at least nothing else. It'll just brighten your teeth up better if you don't use it for anything else. You've been warned.